Years ago, if you would have asked what the industry standard on the mix bus was, you'd probably get answers like an SSL bus compressor, a Red 3 compressor, and maybe some Pultec EQs. But as great as they are, they're slowly becoming relics of a simpler time in music. The demand for cutting-edge modern mixes has pushed the pros to seek out the next generation of mix bus plugins. Not wanting my own mixes to get left behind, I decided to find out for myself. What were these mix bus behemoths that the pros wanted to keep secret? And in this video, I'm going to share with you what I discovered, including one plugin that will uniquely offer unmatched clarity and punch across anyone's mix. Get ready to take your mixes to the next level with the secret weapon that has been whispered among audio engineers for years. Me and my friends call it the Test Mix Winner, and it's used by mixers like Chad Blake, Kevin Churko, and Billy Decker. The Oxford Inflator has a straightforward interface that includes an internal clipper and a band split, but the real magic happens on the effect fader. Throw the effect fader at 100% and adjust the input and curve settings, and watch as it increases the loudness and presence of your mix without adding any sort of compression. But you'll want to make sure you take care of all the pesky resonant frequencies in your mix before tossing on an inflator. That's why you'll want to bring out the big guns, and by the big guns, I mean Soothe 2. Soothe 2 is what I call your RFDS, short for Resonant Frequency Defense System, helping you conquer even the most stubborn of resonances that plague the frequency spectrum of your mix. But a lot of engineers miss a couple of features that make Soothe 2 a first and only in its class. It offers mid-side and linking so that the processing can work the way you need it to at the mix bus stage. And don't forget the mix blend and the quality blend option for fine-tuning as well. Now imagine this. You put your heart and soul into a mix, working tirelessly for days on end to get every detail just right. You're so close to the finish line, but just one problem. You've nailed the vibe of the song, but the balance is a little off and some clarity couldn't hurt. But if you start tweaking the balance too much and re-EQing things for more clarity, you can easily ruin your mix you worked so hard to get. I've been there myself, and it's a nightmare to figure out. Until I discovered a sneaky little plugin that mixers like Il Angelo all the way to Dave Otero enjoy using for this reason. It basically rebalances your balance while maintaining your balance and re-EQs your EQs while maintaining your EQs, if that even makes sense. And I am way oversimplifying it. Sound Theory's GoFos is like a musical surgeon, capable of performing delicate yet powerful procedures on your mix to correct any masking and balancing issues. The manual does a great job explaining everything it does, but in short, even if you think your mix is clear and punchy and overall just banging, throw GoFos on it and you'll be surprised with how much more you can squeeze out of the mix. But that's not the only magic plugin I uncovered that Il Angelo happened to use in a mix breakdown. On his mix bus, this plugin pushes the mix a little further. Dyn1 is a 5 multi-band processor that won't introduce phasing or aliasing or distortion between the crossovers, which is something to be careful about when using multi-band processing on the mix bus. Dyn1's processing is optimized for dynamics, transients, or sustained source information at each band. And unlike typical multi-band processors, Dyn1 works in parallel. I like to think of it as the virtual baking of plugins. Whatever you throw it on, it's going to sound delicious. Now, Chris Lord-Alge is known for outboard mixing, but once in a blue moon, he'll reach for plugins for additional help on a mix. And if you know CLA, you know he's all about vibe and excitement. One plugin that has all that wrapped under its hood that makes an appearance on the mix bus from time to time is Wave's Abbey Road TG mastering chain. CLA loves the color it adds just by being thrown on the bus and is a big fan of the musicality of the spreader. And speaking of spreaders,
get your mind out of the gutter!
Mixers like Tony Maserati and Andrew Sheps and many others swear by a plugin that offers surprisingly organic, musical sounding EQ curve, stereo spreading, and coupled with powerful bass summing capabilities. All wrapped up in a mid-side processing package. BX Digital is one of those hidden gems that, like when you get a new car, you'll start suddenly seeing more and more of them on the road. You'll start seeing BX Digital in more and more sessions and wonder how have you gone this long without it. Alright, so knowing which mix bus compressor has always been a mystery to many mixers. Some use one compressor, others use 2 compressors. And then there are some who barely have their compressors doing more than a dB of compression, while others squash their mix bus compressors harder than the Hulk smashing Loki. However, with modern productions becoming clearer, punchier, and louder, the limitations of vintage 2-bus compressors may be less desirable for certain projects. So what if you wanted a transparent 2-bus compressor that still provided the perfect glue to bring all the instruments together? What if you wanted to sidechain the vocals to the music mix bus without sacrificing quality typical of normal sidechaining? Usually there's a trade-off, but now you can get the transparent glue you've wanted from Sonable's Smart Comp. Smart Comp is unlike most compressors. It listens to the incoming audio, and instead of compressing the entire signal, it will instead compress the spectral parts of the signal that need help. But where the real power of Smart Comp is in its sidechaining. It listens to the incoming audio sidechain and will spectrally compress the audio out of the way of the sidechain source, like a superhero that only takes out the bad guys without harming the innocent bystanders. So what if you already love your mix bus chain, but just one problem, and it's a problem all your mixes have? The mix just is a bit too dark and warm sounding. Using an EQ to boost the top end doesn't really solve the issue, it just makes it brighter. Well, Gregory Scott, the owner of Kush Audio, felt that way about his own mixes as well, and came up with something incredible that's a secret weapon for mixers like Dave Pensado. It's a game changer for mid-range heavy mixes. Clariphonic isn't your typical EQ that just boosts the top end and leaves you with a harsh, overbearing sound. Instead, it blends the original EQ curve with the gorgeous musical sheen that gives your mix presence and clarity.
Delicious.
Another gem that I found came from a mixing engineer that used to work for Dave for years before going off to make a name for themselves, working with some of the biggest artists in the world and winning a few Grammys along the way. Jason Joshua is one of the best mixers in the game, and what separates his style of mixing from other mixers is his brilliant use of saturation. In most cases, an engineer reaches for EQ to boost a signal, but Jason will opt to reach for saturation plugins instead of EQ. And one of the saturation plugins Jason loves to reach for is Spectre from Waves Factory. Don't be fooled by its appearance as just another parametric EQ, because Spectre actually uses parallel saturation processors for each band, with up to 10 different flavors of saturation and 3 levels of aggression to choose from. Not only that, but you can also adjust each band to be stereo, left, right, mid, or side, and the list of features goes on. It might look clean and simple, but the results are nothing short of top-tier analog saturation that will have your mix sounding like $1,000,000. So earlier I had mentioned BX Digital, which is a plugin Andrew Sheps likes to use on his mix bus. Andrew also uses an instance of Sonic's Oxford limiter on his mix bus, which happens to have some of the same processing found in Inflator. And Andrew has said in Mix Breakdowns, he just loves how transparent and loud this limiter can get his mix. But that all changed once he discovered a game-changing limiter that's taking his mixes to the next level. Elevate is a powerhouse multi-band limiter that also has a maximizer to increase the loudness, which doesn't screw with Andrew's dynamics. But unlike other limiters and processors, Elevate adapts to the incoming audio and analyzes 26 different frequency ranges, and will uniquely change the gain and transient information for each band, like some sort of Iron Man nanosuit wrapping itself around your mix for optimum output. Now hold on to your seats because this next plugin is about to blow your mind. It can work wonders on individual tracks, but when you apply it to your mix bus, it's like taking a plasmid from BioShock that just levels up your mix. And don't let the gnarly user interface scare you off. Once you wrap your head around it, you'll see why this plugin is making waves in the audio world. Melda Productions Spectrodynamics is like the wild child of compressors, but with the hint of Glowfoss and Sooth 2 and Smart Comp thrown in. It's got everything you need to musically control gating, de-essing, compression, clipping, exciters, and denoising your entire mix, all while adapting to the unique spectral frequency ranges of your tracks. Warning though, once you start playing with this one on your mix bus, it's going to be an incredibly hard mix bus addiction to quit. It feels like finally discovering the Krabby Patty secret recipe of mix bus clarity and punch. And don't get ahead of yourself just yet, because if the rest of your mix isn't up to par before you hit the mix bus, then these plugins won't magically transform it into the polished professional sound you crave. And you'll want to see for yourself what sorts of gear pros can't live without to get their tracks to sound great before the mix bus.